The deep work hypothesis. The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare. At exactly the same time, it is becoming increasingly valuable in our economy. As a consequence, the few who cultivate this skill and then make it the core of their working life will thrive. This book has two goals, pursued in two parts. First, tackled in part one, is to convince you that the deep work hypothesis is true. The second, tackled in part two, is to teach you how to take advantage of this reality by training your brain and transforming your work habits to place deep work at the core of your professional life. Are we recording too? Okay, deep work is so important that we might consider it, to use the phrasing of business writer Eric Barker, the superpower of the 21st century. Superpower of the 21st century. You get that? Deep work, professional activities performed in a distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive abilities to their limit. That's deep work's definition here. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. Deep work is necessary to wring every last drop of value out of your current intellectual capacity. We know now from decades of research about psychology and neuroscience that the state of mental strain that accompanies deep work is also necessary to improve your abilities. How's it going, guys? How's the mail? Rhymes with KO.BigRio.com. This is a book review of Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World by Cal Newport. And this is, we've had a few of these tips. We've been using the 52 tips on passive income. And whenever we're late on that, or whenever it's not where you think we're late, I get emails about that. We're starting to get those on the book reviews. So less people are watching the book reviews, but those of you that do are really appreciating it. And we've been doing these. We do these for our heroes all the time. We only put out some of them, but we should put out more of these. I think more of these book reviews because they're really powerful. This right here, basically it's a one-page book review. This video will feel like you should have gotten the best ideas from this book. Every time we do one, we put the best ideas of the book in their words, not mine. And this is a really powerful concept here, that there's a place. Tesla used to call it the source. He said there's a source in the universe, a place where if you can tap into all the knowledge and all the brilliance, all of the advancements that have been and are now or will ever be. And you can tap into it where space and time exist. It's really deep stuff, but this is the idea of basically high levels of concentration and what can you do with that. My one sentence summary: how being laser focused will improve the quality of your thinking, achievements in life. I stole that from you. Thank you. Cal Newport, he's a computer professor at Georgetown. Oh, he's so smart. Oh, wow. He is pretty smart guy. He also wrote the book So Good They Can't Ignore You. And this book, Deep Work, I've gotten a few requests from it, and you actually asked me about this as well. So this is a book that's been floating around Silicon Valley for a while. Remember to go to BigRio.com. It's the world's #1 YouTube channel for Indiana real estate. No big deal. We're also building the world's largest organization of special needs business owners and providing the world's special needs business owners and real estate investors. And we're providing the world's clearest instructions on how any human being can create a passive income of $30,000 a month. That light was blinking for a second. Is it good? Yeah. Okay. All right. So next lesson: LCs are shallow and don't fire the dendrites. This is super important, guys. All right. So check this out. Shallow work. This is how they define shallow work: non-cognitively demanding, logistical style tasks often performed while distracted. These efforts tend not to create much value in the world and are easy to replicate. So what we were talking about earlier with the job. Why do people have a hard time finding a job? Because they're not focusing on the value they create. There's only two things we need, and you have all the jobs or all the opportunities you need. First, focus on that value incessantly, and then become masterful at explaining that value, conveying that to other people, right? We do those two things, you never have to worry about work again. In the age of network tools, in other words, knowledge workers increasingly replace deep work with shallow alternatives, LC stuff, watching porn, getting on Netflix, faxing stuff to nobody, constantly sending and receiving email messages like human network routers, with frequent breaks for quick hits of distraction. We always say the LC is all they want to do is take breaks in between resting. That's just, and everything's exhausting. The LC's always exhausted. You ever notice? So the two core abilities for thriving in the new economy: number one, the ability to quickly master hard things. Number two, the ability to produce at an elite level in terms of both quality and speed. What have we been saying from the very beginning? And you just mentioned this point when we had we put together a little document on how anybody in like third world countries, developing countries, can quickly get a six-figure income. How do you do it? Two things: you got to be fast and good at your work, and keep volunteering. Just if it's logo design, just do it. Volunteer again and again until you get those two skills. You're fast and you're good. Money loves speed. Be fast and good, not good. Great. I love that correction. Thank you. To understand, all right, this is a part of the whole neuroplasticity. To understand the role of myelin and improvement, keep in mind that skills, be they intellectual or physical, eventually reduce down to brain circuits. This new science of performance argues that you get better at a skill as you develop more myelin around the relevant neurons, allowing the corresponding circuit to fire more effortlessly and effectively. To be great at something is to be well myelinated. This understanding is important because it provides a neurological foundation for why deliberate practice works. By focusing intensely on a specific skill, you're forcing the relevant circuit to fire again and again in isolation. This repetitive use of a circuit triggers cells called oligodendrocytes. Did I get that? Oligodendrocytes. I've always had a hard time with that. There's the other one too, the spatial or the specialized oligodendrocytes. That's what I was confused with. Oligodendrocytes to begin wrapping layers of myelin around the neurons in the circuits, effectively cementing the skills. Oligodendrocytes. The reason, therefore, why it's important to focus intensely on the task at hand while avoiding distraction is because this is the only way to isolate the relevant neural circuit good enough to trigger useful myelination. So basically, myelin, whenever you think about something, right, it's a signal from your brain to a part of your body and then back to your brain. The myelin is like that little, so whenever we think about something, we talk about this neuroplasticity concept, right? So if you're used to low frequency thinking, LC thinking, that's what your brain is used to. That's the cathedral, that's the house, that's a city that your brain is used to building. As soon as you want to get high frequency thinking involved, what happens? You're like hacking through the jungle, right? It's not a well traversed or well traveled road. It's just like a walkway at first. But then as you keep traveling down that road, that mental road, it gets more and more, it becomes like, a path, a walking path, then more of it becomes a dirt road, then it eventually becomes a road, and then a highway, and then a super highway, and then we can turn into like a bullet train, right? That's what we want to do. The myelin is what is the protective coating. We remember that diagram we showed? It's like the kidney stones, like the beads. That's what it is. It's like the myelin. What they're talking about here is the more you do something, first it becomes you go from a walking path to a super highway of thought, right? That's why why are LCs always so miserable? Because that's where they go. That's their emotional home. And all we ever try to do, once you have a home, whether it's LC stuff or being a badass, that home, we were talking about this earlier, that home becomes where you just use whatever happens externally to go where you want to be internally, where you're used to being, your home internally, right? So you've got to build a better home, a better emotional, intellectual home in your brain, and then start firing dendrites. They don't talk about dendrites here, but what really, the myelination around a cell, around a nerve cell, is it's like the bodyguard, basically. Think of it like, the electrical circuits, the wiring that goes around. Remember when the pipe broke in the garage and they came and they brought that big thing that hugged around the pipe to warm it up? That's what the myelin is. The myelin protects a nerve cell. So it's the last thing to go on a nerve cell, but it makes sure that the signals go to and from it. Whenever you have myelin problems, your mother had this issue as well. This is how you get MS, multiple sclerosis. It's the myelin is being damaged, and then the nerve cells aren't communicating as well. This is super important, you guys. Always picture this stuff, because the oligodendrocytes, those are basically like the foreman. They're the ones that say, okay, this road of thought is important. Let's get the myelin around it. So let's protect it. It's like a tunnel around that super train of thought, right? And so that's what every time we're doing something, we're triggering that stuff. But what starts all of this is the dendrites. They don't talk about it in the book, but the dendrites are what receive that information. We got to fire those dendrites. Every time you think about something, the more you think about it, the more it connects to other thoughts. The more you think about something, the easier it becomes to think about. And the easier it attracts other thoughts like that. And that field also extends past your body, which is what our study and our work is all about right now. How strong is that field? Really good stuff here. Thought control, dendrites, what fires together, wires together. It's why people think smoking calms them down, because those two thoughts have been fired together. And neuroplasticity, your brain is always remodeling itself. Always picture the myelin, picture the oligodendrocytes, but more importantly, picture the dendrites. Fire those dendrites every time we're thinking about something. High quality thinking, and then that's eventually where you'll live. Good stuff. Okay, focus and don't fear your best needed improvement. What the hell was that? Is that the last one? Okay. To produce at your peak level, you need to work for extended periods with full concentration on a single task free from distraction. Put another way, the type of work that optimizes performance is deep work. An often overlooked observation about those who use their minds to create valuable things is that they're rarely haphazard in their work habits. They don't do stuff half-assed. Don't take breaks from distraction. This one line is pretty much the entire point of the book, I think. Don't take breaks from distraction. Instead, take breaks from focus, right? This is what the LC is always doing. They're taking breaks in between resting, right? And I got to get a day off. Or once they think they're going to, okay, Saturday I'm going to make all my calls. Well, then every day between now and Saturday, they basically take off. So it should be whatever you can do now, even if it is just a little bit. Get that done, and the accumulation. Whatever you can do every day is what we should focus on. The deep life, of course, is not for everybody. It requires hard work and drastic changes to your habits. For many, there's a comfort in the artificial busyness of rapid email messaging and social media posturing, while the deep life demands that you leave much of that behind. There's also an uneasiness that surrounds any effort to produce the best things you're possible of producing, as this forces you to confront the possibility that your best is not yet that good. It's safer to comment on our culture than to step into the Rooseveltian ring and attempt to wrestle it into something better. This describes the LC, the attitude of being the audience, being the spectator perfectly. Steel sharpens steel. Everything we do, all of our stuff, the reason why so many of you guys on our team are performing so well is because all we do is iterations. Remember earlier when they asked what's the quiz, what's the test? I said the test is always in the real world. Everything we do here, your test is always in the real world, right? It doesn't matter what I think or what anybody else thinks. It's how you produce, how you perform in the real world. And ultimately, it's the accumulation, right? Whenever somebody wants money or a better body or health or whatever, what they're saying is I want the accumulation of a new set of rituals, a new set of habits, a new series of behaviors, right? I want that accumulation. I want 1 year's worth of push-ups every day. But the secret really is to enjoy the accumulation, because if you do that, you're not asking, are we there yet? Are we there yet? You're enjoying the ride. and steel sharpens steel constantly. We always come back, we always iterate, we calibrate, always come back in, repetition, accountability, discipline. This is what we got to do. Get something started, get it going. Even if you make one phone call a day or one whatever a day, we come back, we improve it. Choose your addiction. You know that you're doing this. When you look forward to this work or any of the stuff we're doing, when you look forward to it the way you would playing Mario Kart, the way a teenager does, a kid looks at opening, gifts on Christmas Day, like that kind of dopamine hit. When your work gives you that, that's where you want to be, that kind of high frequency thinking. As long as you're there, everything is beautiful and wonderful. I love you.